What if I told you that the weeds you've been cursing and tossing in the trash are actually your soil's salvation? These so-called pests are mining nutrients from deep soil layers, calcium, magnesium, trace minerals, and delivering them straight to your topsoil when they die and decompose. Yet, gardeners across the country are throwing away this biological treasure and wondering why their raised beds produce smaller, less nutritious crops each year. The weeds aren't your enemy. Your disposal habits are. This fundamental misunderstanding reveals a deeper problem that affects nearly every raised bed gardener. Most gardeners operate under a dangerous assumption that transforms raised beds into slow-motion agricultural disasters. They believe that filling a wooden frame with premium soil creates a permanent growing solution, a one-time investment that will produce abundant harvests indefinitely. This static thinking treats soil like a savings account with unlimited withdrawals, when the biological reality operates more like a checking account that demands constant deposits to prevent bankruptcy. Every tomato you harvest extracts nitrogen from your soil. Every pepper removes phosphorus. Each cucumber depletes potassium reserves while simultaneously drawing calcium, magnesium, and boron from the earth. These aren't abstract nutrient concepts. They're the actual molecular building blocks your plants consume and incorporate into their cellular structure. When you harvest that perfect red tomato, you're literally removing these minerals from your growing system, creating deficiencies where essential elements once existed. The gardening industry perpetuates this crisis through advice that focuses obsessively on initial soil preparation while completely ignoring the ongoing nutrient hemorrhage created by continuous harvesting. Garden centers sell you expensive soil blends, compost amendments, and organic matter additions for the initial setup, then send you home with the expectation that this foundation will sustain production indefinitely. They provide detailed setup guidance, but offer no maintenance strategy for long-term soil health, leaving gardeners to discover the inevitable decline through failed harvests. Your raised bed operates as a dynamic nutrient account, where every harvest represents a withdrawal that must be balanced by strategic deposits. Plants don't simply borrow nutrients and return them later. They permanently extract these minerals from the soil matrix and convert them into plant tissue. When you harvest and consume that tissue, those nutrients leave your garden system entirely, creating an ever-widening deficit that conventional gardening wisdom completely fails to address. Natural ecosystems demonstrate the continuous nutrient cycling that maintains soil fertility across centuries. Fallen leaves decompose and return their accumulated minerals to the forest floor. Dead plants contribute their cellular contents back to the earth. Animal waste deposits concentrated nutrients throughout the landscape. This biological conveyor belt operates continuously, ensuring that essential minerals circulate through the system rather than flowing away in a single direction. Most raised bed failures stem from treating soil as an inert container, rather than recognizing it as a living biological community that requires constant nourishment. Gardeners approach their beds like storage boxes filled with growing medium, when they should understand them as complex ecosystems where millions of microorganisms work continuously to process organic matter and make nutrients available to plant roots. This fundamental misunderstanding creates the conditions where initially productive beds decline steadily over subsequent growing seasons. The law of return governs long-term soil fertility with mathematical precision. What comes out must go back in through biological processes. This principle operates whether you acknowledge it or not, determining whether your raised beds become more fertile over time or gradually transform into sterile growing containers that require ever-increasing external inputs to maintain basic productivity. Yet while gardeners struggle with this nutrient bankruptcy, nature operates a sophisticated solution right under their noses. The very plants they've been discarding as worthless weeds are actually operating an underground mining system that could solve their fertility crisis entirely. Deep beneath your raised bed, an invisible workforce operates around the clock, extracting minerals from soil layers your vegetables can never reach. This biological mining operation functions with precision and efficiency that surpasses any industrial extraction system. Yet most gardeners remain completely unaware of its existence. The miners in this operation are the very plants you've been trained to eliminate: weeds. Different plant species possess dramatically varying root capabilities and penetration depths, with some functioning as specialized biological miners designed to access mineral deposits locked away in deep soil layers. Your cultivated vegetables typically develop shallow root systems that rarely extend beyond 12 inches below the surface, limiting their access to nutrients within this restricted zone. Meanwhile, the weeds you battle daily operate as deep drilling specialists with root systems engineered for maximum soil penetration and mineral extraction. The common perception of weeds as purely destructive forces represents a fundamental misunderstanding of their ecological role. These plants serve as nutrient extraction specialists, deploying sophisticated root architectures specifically designed to mine minerals from subsoil layers that remain permanently inaccessible to your crops. Where your tomatoes and peppers struggle to penetrate compacted soil beyond the topsoil layer, weeds drive their roots deep into the earth with mechanical force and chemical precision. Dandelions penetrate deep soil layers that your garden vegetables cannot reach, using their taproot system to drill through hardpan and clay barriers that stop conventional crops completely. Plantain spreads extensive fibrous root networks throughout these deep zones, creating vast mineral collection systems that operate continuously. Clover establishes both surface roots for immediate nutrient absorption and penetrating roots for deep mineral access, functioning as a dual-zone extraction system. The biological mechanism driving this mineral extraction process involves sophisticated chemical processes conducted at the cellular level. These plants secrete specialized compounds through their roots that dissolve mineral deposits locked within subsoil particles. Essential minerals that would otherwise remain permanently unavailable become accessible when exposed to these targeted chemical processes, releasing nutrients that your shallow-rooted crops could never obtain. Once dissolved, these minerals move upward through the plant's vascular system and concentrate within leaves, stems, and flowers. The plants essentially function as biological pumps, continuously drawing calcium, magnesium, potassium, iron, and trace minerals from deep soil reservoirs and depositing them in their above-ground biomass. This upward mineral transport operates 24 hours daily throughout the growing season, creating substantial mineral accumulation within weed tissue. Weed biomass frequently contains mineral concentrations that exceed cultivated vegetables by factors of 2 to 5, making these plants living treasure chests of concentrated soil nutrients. A single mature dandelion plant can accumulate more calcium in its leaves than an entire head of lettuce, while simultaneously concentrating potassium levels that surpass most garden vegetables. This natural mining system operates continuously and automatically, requiring no external inputs or maintenance from gardeners. Weeds essentially pump nutrients upward from deep soil layers through their specialized root systems, creating a constant flow of minerals from subsoil to surface. Each plant functions as a living nutrient elevator, bringing mineral wealth from the depths where it lies dormant to the topsoil, where it can benefit your cultivated crops. These biological miners transform inaccessible subsoil minerals into concentrated, surface-available nutrients through their natural decomposition processes. The biological treasure being generated continuously beneath your feet represents the most efficient soil enrichment system available to any gardener. Yet most gardeners systematically destroy this mineral wealth through a single devastating practice. Every time you pull weeds and toss them in the trash, you're literally throwing away the solution to your soil's mineral deficiencies. This standard gardening practice represents one of the most counterproductive activities performed in backyards across the country. Gardeners methodically remove weeds from their raised beds, bag them up, and send them to landfills or compost facilities, treating these mineral-rich plants as worthless waste, rather than recognizing them as concentrated nutrient resources. The mathematical reality of this practice reveals a staggering mineral hemorrhage occurring daily in raised bed systems. Gardeners remove pounds of concentrated minerals, while simultaneously wondering why their soil becomes depleted despite expensive fertilization programs. Each mature weed plant contains substantial concentrations of calcium, potassium, iron, magnesium, and crucial trace elements accumulated through their deep mining root systems. When you multiply this mineral content across the dozens of weeds removed from a typical raised bed throughout the growing season, the cumulative nutrient loss reaches substantial proportions. This disposal practice creates a one-way flow of nutrients out of the raised bed system, with no natural mechanism for replacement. The contained nature of raised beds prevents the natural nutrient cycling that occurs in open garden spaces, where decomposing plant matter automatically returns minerals to surrounding soil. Your raised bed operates as a closed system, where every nutrient removal becomes a permanent loss unless deliberately replaced through external inputs. The fundamental irony emerges when gardeners purchase expensive mineral supplements and fertilizers to replace the exact nutrients they discarded as weeds. Commercial calcium supplements, potassium boosters, and trace mineral blends fill garden center shelves, offering synthetic replacements for the concentrated minerals that were recently hauled away in garbage bags. This creates an artificial scarcity in contained growing environments, where gardeners pay premium prices to replace nutrients they already possessed in concentrated form. Raised beds demonstrate declining productivity within 3 to 5 years, despite regular fertilization, primarily due to trace mineral depletion that synthetic fertilizers fail to address. Conventional fertilizers focus intensively on macronutrients, while neglecting the crucial trace minerals that weeds naturally accumulate from deep soil layers. This nutritional imbalance creates deficiencies that manifest as reduced plant vigor, decreased disease resistance, and diminished crop quality over successive growing seasons. The removal of weeds disrupts the natural nutrient cycling that maintains soil fertility in wild ecosystems, where organic matter decomposition returns essential elements to the soil matrix continuously. Natural systems depend on this biological recycling process to maintain long-term fertility without external inputs. When gardeners interrupt this process through systematic weed removal, they create an artificial dependency on commercial fertilizers to maintain basic soil productivity. Weed disposal represents the single largest cause of mineral bankruptcy in raised bed systems, creating artificial scarcity in contained growing environments that should theoretically concentrate nutrients rather than depleting them. This practice transforms potentially self-sustaining biological systems into nutrient-dependent containers that require continuous external supplementation to maintain productivity. The solution involves recognizing these discarded plants as valuable nutrient resources and implementing systematic approaches to capture and recycle their concentrated mineral content back into the soil where it belongs. The most successful raised bed gardeners have discovered how to transform their biggest problem into their most valuable resource through selective weed management. Strategic weed cycling operates as a systematic approach to capturing and returning nutrients to raised bed soil, functioning like a biological recycling center that processes mineral-rich plant material into immediately available soil fertility. This method treats weeds as valuable raw materials rather than disposable waste, creating closed-loop nutrient systems that build soil wealth over time. The primary concern gardeners express about returning weeds to soil centers on potential seed spread and disease transmission. Valid worries that proper techniques eliminate while maximizing nutritional benefits. Selective harvesting involves cutting weeds before they develop mature seeds, focusing specifically on mineral-rich species like dandelions, plantain, and clover during their peak vegetative growth phases. This timing prevents seed dispersal while capturing maximum mineral concentrations accumulated within plant tissues during active growth periods. The chop-and-drop technique transforms weed biomass into living mulch through mechanical processing that accelerates decomposition and nutrient release. Fresh weed material gets cut into small pieces measuring 2 to 3 inches in length, then laid directly on soil surfaces around established crop plants. This placement creates protective mulch layers that suppress additional weed growth while simultaneously decomposing and releasing concentrated minerals into the root zone of desired plants. Accelerated composting methods involve layering fresh weed material with carbon sources to create rapid decomposition and immediate nutrient availability. The process combines nitrogen-rich weed biomass with carbon materials like dried leaves, newspaper, or cardboard to promote rapid microbial activity. These layered systems generate sufficient heat to eliminate potential pathogens while breaking down organic matter into plant-available nutrients within weeks rather than months. The weed tea extraction process creates concentrated liquid fertilizer through steeping procedures that extract water-soluble minerals from chopped plant material. Fresh weed biomass gets submerged in water containers for specific time periods, allowing cellular breakdown to release dissolved nutrients into the liquid medium. The resulting nutrient-rich solution provides immediately available minerals that can be applied directly to plant root zones through standard watering practices. Timing strategies maximize nutrient capture through precise harvesting schedules aligned with natural plant growth cycles and mineral accumulation patterns. Weeds reach peak mineral concentrations during their most vigorous growth phases, typically occurring before flowering, when energy focuses on vegetative development rather than seed production. Early morning harvesting captures optimal moisture content and nutrient density while avoiding midday stress conditions that reduce plant quality. Different weed species demonstrate varying mineral accumulation schedules that inform strategic harvesting decisions. Dandelions concentrate maximum calcium and potassium levels during spring growth spurts before flower formation. Plantain achieves peak trace mineral content during sustained summer growth periods. Clover accumulates nitrogen and phosphorus most effectively during early season establishment phases. Strategic weed cycling provides substantial portions of raised bed mineral requirements while eliminating dependence on expensive synthetic supplements. This systematic approach reduces external input costs while building sustainable nutrient cycling systems that operate continuously throughout growing seasons. These returned plant residues accomplish more than simple nutrient replacement. They feed an invisible biological community that determines whether your raised bed thrives or gradually fails. This biological community operates as the foundation for sustainable raised bed fertility, determining whether your growing system thrives or gradually declines over successive seasons. Healthy soil contains billions of microorganisms that facilitate nutrient cycling and plant health through continuous biological processes operating throughout the growing season. These microscopic workers include bacteria, fungi, protozoa, and countless other organisms that transform organic matter into plant-available nutrients. Most gardeners treat raised bed soil as an inert container that requires constant external inputs to maintain fertility, approaching their growing medium like a passive storage system, rather than recognizing the dynamic biological processes occurring within the soil matrix. This perspective creates dependency on synthetic fertilizers and expensive soil amendments, while ignoring the natural biological systems capable of generating sustainable fertility through organic matter cycling. Returned plant residues feed soil microbes, creating a biological network that continuously processes organic matter into plant-available nutrients. When weed biomass decomposes within the soil system, bacterial communities break down the cellular structure, releasing nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, and trace minerals in forms immediately accessible to crop plant root systems. This biological processing operates more efficiently than synthetic fertilizer application because nutrients release gradually over extended periods rather than creating temporary abundance followed by rapid depletion. Mycorrhizal fungi form symbiotic relationships with plant roots, significantly extending the root system and enhancing mineral uptake, particularly for phosphorus and trace elements that remain locked within soil particles. These fungal networks function like underground communication systems, connecting plant roots to distant nutrient sources while simultaneously improving soil structure. The fungi penetrate soil spaces too small for plant roots, accessing mineral deposits and transporting nutrients directly to plant root surfaces through their extensive networks. Bacterial communities break down organic matter and fix atmospheric nitrogen, reducing dependence on synthetic fertilizers through natural biological processes that operate continuously when provided with adequate organic matter inputs. These beneficial bacteria convert complex organic molecules into simpler compounds, releasing stored nutrients from plant tissues back into the soil solution where plants can absorb them immediately. Maintaining proper carbon to nitrogen balance supports active microbial populations, and weed residues naturally provide ideal conditions for sustained biological activity. This balance ensures rapid decomposition without creating problematic conditions that produce harmful compounds or nutrient lockup. The soil food web illustrates how nutrients cycle through multiple biological pathways, creating resilient, self-maintaining fertility systems. Organic matter feeds microbes, which then feed plants through this intricate network of biological relationships. Each organism plays a specific role in processing nutrients and making them available to your crops. Building soil biology through organic residue cycling creates raised beds that become more productive over time rather than depleting, establishing biological momentum that accelerates with each growing season. The microbial populations expand when provided with consistent organic matter inputs, creating increasingly efficient nutrient cycling systems that generate surplus fertility rather than requiring external supplementation. This biological approach transforms raised beds into self-sustaining ecosystems that mirror natural soil development processes. Yet many gardeners unknowingly undermine these beneficial biological communities through their fertilization choices. Synthetic fertilizers promise immediate results, but create fundamental problems that compound over time, transforming healthy soil ecosystems into chemically dependent systems. The fertilizer industry has positioned these products as scientific solutions to soil deficiencies, offering precise nutrient ratios and guaranteed results that appeal to gardeners seeking quick fixes for struggling plants. Garden centers prominently display rows of colorful fertilizer packages, promising immediate plant nutrition and enhanced yields through concentrated chemical formulations. These synthetic products provide temporary nutrient boosts while failing to build the biological systems that create lasting soil health through natural processes. The immediate green-up effect and rapid plant response creates the illusion of soil improvement, when the underlying biological foundation remains unchanged or gradually deteriorates. Gardeners witness visible improvements in plant color and growth, interpreting these responses as evidence of soil health rather than recognizing them as temporary chemical stimulation. Synthetic fertilizers disrupt soil microbial communities that normally cycle organic nutrients and maintain soil structure effectively. The chemical composition of synthetic fertilizers can interfere with beneficial bacteria and fungi that decompose organic matter and release nutrients gradually. This microbial disruption interrupts natural nutrient cycling processes, forcing plants to depend on artificial inputs rather than biological soil processes that build long-term fertility. Repeated synthetic fertilizer use can increase soil salinity through salt accumulation, particularly problematic in raised beds with limited drainage. The salt compounds used in synthetic fertilizers build up in contained systems where natural leaching cannot occur effectively. Elevated salinity levels interfere with plant water uptake and create challenging conditions for the beneficial microbes essential for healthy soil biology. Synthetic inputs focus primarily on macronutrients, while neglecting the trace minerals and biological processes that support plant health comprehensively. While synthetic fertilizers provide nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, they often fail to address the complex nutritional needs that plants derive from active soil biology. This approach can create nutritional imbalances that compromise plant immune system function and overall crop quality. The dependency cycle created by synthetic fertilizers gradually reduces soil's natural fertility mechanisms, necessitating increasing applications to maintain yields as biological processes remain undeveloped. Each application addresses immediate nutrient needs without building the soil biology that creates sustainable fertility over time. The natural processes that generate lasting soil health become secondary to chemical supplementation. Synthetic fertilizers treat symptoms rather than causes, creating temporary abundance while missing opportunities to build long-term soil wealth through biological development. This approach maintains plant survival without developing the soil ecosystem that creates truly sustainable fertility. The alternative lies in understanding soil as a living biological community that processes organic matter into plant-available nutrients through natural cycles. Building these biological processes creates raised beds that become more fertile over time, rather than requiring constant external inputs to maintain basic productivity. This systematic approach transforms gardening from an endless cycle of inputs and amendments into a practical method that passionate gardeners can implement immediately in their own raised beds. The path to abundant, nutritious harvests lies not in fighting natural systems, but in understanding and working with the biological processes that have sustained plant life for millions of years. Your raised beds operate most efficiently when they mirror the nutrient cycling mechanisms found in wild ecosystems, where decomposing organic matter continuously feeds soil microbial communities. Challenge yourself to see every weed as a mineral delivery system and every harvest as an opportunity to strengthen rather than deplete your soil ecosystem. Transform your raised beds from nutrient-draining containers into self-sustaining biological powerhouses by keeping those weeds and building the soil community that will feed your plants for decades. Share your experiences with weed cycling in the comments below. Which techniques have transformed your soil health?